In this episode, we delve deep into one of the most intriguing and dramatic murder cases in Belgium, known as the Parachute Murder. This case reveals a story so thrilling, it almost seems like fiction. But before we explore the depths of this tragedy, let's first outline the context of the time in which this event took place. The year 2006 was filled with remarkable events that made headlines worldwide. From the fairy tale wedding of Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes, to the mysterious death of Russian former secret agent Alexander Litvinenko. Revelations about torture by Dutch soldiers in Iraq also came to light. Amidst this global tumult on November 18, 2006, a tragedy unfolded in Opklabeek, a quiet Belgian village that would shock the local community and parachutists worldwide. Els Van Doren, a 38-year-old experienced Belgian parachutist, lost her life after a jump in which neither her main nor reserve parachutes opened. This incident took place near the Zwartberg Parachutists Club, where she was a member. Els was a respected member of the parachutist community, known as the club's mother, and led a double life. During the week, she was at home with her family, and on weekends, she had an affair with Marcel, a Dutch skydive instructor from Eindhoven. Their relationship lasted 6 years, up to her death. Her husband Jan was reportedly unaware of the affair. Besides her relationship with Marcel, Els was also involved in a complex love triangle, where Marcel had another sexual relationship with another Els, who was distinguished as Maria for clarity. Els Van Doren's death was initially seen as an accident, but investigation quickly revealed that her parachute had been tampered with, establishing that she had been murdered. At the heart of the investigation into the shocking parachute murder were two women who seemed to share the same fate, not only in name, but also in a connected tragedy. To break through the fog of confusion caused by their shared first name, we will give Els Klodemans, the younger of the two, and marked by a life full of challenges, a new nickname. From that point on, she would be known as Maria. Maria, who lost her father at a young age, comes from a complex background and eventually became a key person in the murder investigation. Maria, 22 years old, was relatively new to the parachuting community and had less experience than Els, with whom she became friends. During Els's absence, who was injured and on holiday, Marcel and Maria started a secret sexual relationship. Marcel, who also had a relationship with Els, arranged his time so that he saw Maria on Fridays and Els on weekends, without Els knowing. The discovery of Els's double life and her affair with Marcel came as a shock to her husband Jan, who was informed by the police. Jan also learned about the sabotage of Els' parachute, which caused her death, and was even briefly considered a suspect. Maria visited Jan after Els's death and provided him information about the affair, but her behavior aroused suspicion. Maria had a troubled childhood, lost her father at a young age, and struggled with self-image and mental health issues. Her relationship with Marcel and Els, and the events surrounding the fatal jump, play a central role in the case. The story takes a complex turn when the parachuting community is shaken by the discovery of the sabotage, leading to fear and paranoia among the members. The investigators focused on those within the community with the knowledge to sabotage a parachute, significantly narrowing the circle of suspects. Maria, who had a sexual relationship with Marcel, Els' lover, waited outside until Els left and then went back to Marcel for sex. This shows the intensity and complexity of their relationship. On the day of Els's death, Els, Marcel, and Maria were all present at the Parachutist Club in Zwartberg early. Els bought a ticket for 100 jumps, indicating she planned to continue parachuting. The weather conditions improved, and around 12:15 the green light was given to jump. Els retrieved her parachute from the car, and along with 11 others, they boarded the plane for their jump. The group in which Els jumped consisted of herself, Maria, Marcel, and a fourth jumper, Tom. Maria missed her exit during the jump, preventing her from reaching the formation. After the jump, no irregularities were noticed by Marcel, except that he did not see Els. A video of the jump showed an unidentified red-orange object, later proving crucial for the investigation. After the crash, Marcel deleted a message from Els's phone and called Jan, Els's husband, to inform him about the accident. This, along with Maria's strange behavior following the announcement of the accident, aroused suspicion. The investigation into the parachute revealed that both the main and reserve parachutes were sabotaged, a 1 in a billion chance. Els had just bought a ticket for jumps, making suicide unlikely. A crucial part of the parachute, the pilot chute, was missing, and a securing strap of the reserve parachute was cut through. Suspects in the case were Marcel, Jan, and Maria, although there was no strong suspicion against Maria at that time. Jan was initially considered the main suspect, partly due to suggestions from Marcel. Maria's actions after the phone call between Marcel and Jan, where she drove from Eindhoven to the club in Swartberg, were also scrutinized as part of the investigation. After finding the pilot chute on her way to an interrogation, Maria was intensively interrogated by the police. Maria initially denied writing an anonymous letter to Els, but later admitted to making anonymous calls to Els and Marcel to bring them closer together. She named 3 potential suspects for the murder: Jan, Marcel, and herself, but then denied involvement. During the interrogation, Maria revealed complex details about her relationships and behaviors, including stalking calls from a station. Later, after an attempted suicide by Maria, a farewell letter was found in which she denied being the murderer but admitted to writing the anonymous letter to Els, which she had previously denied. Despite no direct evidence, Maria was arrested and further interrogated. A pair of scissors potentially used to sabotage Els's parachute was examined but provided no evidence against Maria. Despite finding male DNA traces on the parachute, Maria was still suspected due to her behavior and the indirect evidence. The complexity of the investigation, including Maria's behavior, the suicide attempt, and the potential incriminating information left in farewell letters, led to suspicions towards her. Nonetheless, concrete evidence such as DNA matches or direct proofs of sabotage was lacking. After Maria's arrest for the parachute murder, investigators struggled with the absence of direct evidence. They examined Maria's presence at the Parachutist Club the day after the murder and discovered inconsistencies in her alibi. Maria had lied about her activities, and the police suspected she was trying to find and possibly remove the pilot chute, which could be crucial evidence. Maria had also previously lied about her involvement in other incidents, including anonymous threat calls. After a suicide attempt, in which she took several medications, more details emerged, including a confession in a farewell letter that she had written the anonymous letter to Els. This contradicted her earlier denial. Meanwhile, a pair of scissors presumably used to sabotage the parachute contained no DNA from Maria and was ultimately considered unusable evidence. The case was complicated by the fact that everyone at the Parachutist Club was right-handed, providing no further clues about the perpetrator. The investigation was further complicated by a lie detector test, which Maria refused due to her medication, raising more questions. Eventually, new research suggested that the sabotage of the parachute could have been much simpler than initially thought, suggesting Maria might have been capable of committing the act. Notably, Els had an accident with her parachute a week before her death, raising the theory that the sabotage could have occurred earlier, aimed at triggering the reserve parachute, which was presumably sabotaged. However, this hypothesis was not further investigated by the investigators. The case against Maria was mainly based on circumstantial evidence, lies, and her suspicious behavior, including the suicide attempt and inconsistencies in her statements. The lack of direct evidence and DNA match made the case complex and controversial. Before the murder trial of Els Maria Clotemans, investigators speculated about the sabotage of Els's parachute. There was a theory that the sabotage had occurred before November 5th, the day of an unfortunate jump by Els, implying Maria might have attempted to sabotage her earlier. A reconstruction with a dummy showed that even with sabotage, a dummy could land safely, supporting the hypothesis that Maria might have intended to scare Els, not kill her. Maria underwent psychiatric evaluation, which described her as a psychopath with narcissistic and theatrical traits, someone manipulative and showing no empathy for others. There was also a theory that Maria suffered from the Electra complex, which could explain her motives for the murder. Despite the lack of material evidence, Maria was suspected due to her behavior and lies. The trial against Maria began 4 years after the murder in 2010, with significant media attention in Belgium and internationally. The case was unusual because it was conducted without material evidence. Maria was held in prison during the trial and closely monitored due to concerns about suicide. 172 witnesses were heard, and the lawyers were not allowed to speak to the press on penalty of a lifetime ban. The trial was conducted with a jury of ordinary citizens, selected from a group of 90 summoned individuals. This unique legal process, including the selection of jurors and the emphasis on the psychological aspects of Maria's personality, underscored the complexity and challenges of the case. During jury selection for the trial of Els Maria Klotmans, the defense aimed for a jury composed mainly of younger women, similar in age to the victim. Ultimately, the jury consisted of 7 men and 5 women, with 4 female alternate jurors. The jurors were instructed to listen with an open mind and base their judgment only on what was presented during the trial, despite the challenges of media influence. Outside the courtroom, another trial took place in the media and public opinion, with significant support for Maria's innocence, contrasting with the atmosphere within the courtroom. During the trial, a witness, Mike, leaked photos of those involved to the press, undermining his credibility. The trial was characterized by intense media attention and the involvement of prominent lawyers, including Jeff Vermassen for the civil party and Vic Van Elst for the defense. Vermassen's plea lasted 4 hours and focused on 5 angles, including Maria's personality profile and behavior matching the perpetrator's profile, her motive, lies, and minor mistakes she made. Van Elst criticized the investigation's tunnel vision and emphasized the lack of material evidence. A notable moment was the introduction of Dutch legal psychologist Peter van Koppen by the defense, who criticized the investigation as an example of tunnel vision and argued that reasoning from the crime should be done instead of assuming direct guilt. The trial highlighted the case's complexity, where the outcome would heavily lean on the interpretation of indirect evidence, personality analyses, and the persuasiveness of the involved lawyers, given the lack of direct material evidence against Klotmans. The trial against Els Maria Klotmans was unusual due to the absence of direct material evidence. Peter van Koppen, engaged by the defense, criticized the investigation for its tunnel vision, focusing on Maria, while other potential perpetrators were quickly dismissed without thorough investigation. Marcel and Els's husband, Jan, were quickly ruled out as suspects without serious investigation into motive or DNA evidence. During the trial, 12 jurors were tasked with assessing Maria's guilt in a system where an 8-4 majority is sufficient for a conviction. The jury unanimously decided that Maria was guilty of premeditated manslaughter, and she was sentenced to 30 years in prison. The case received significant media attention, and outside the courtroom, a schism emerged between supporters and opponents of Maria's conviction. Interestingly, a jury member found a crucial piece of evidence, Els's makeup bag, among the evidence during deliberation, which turned out to be a police blunder and raised questions about the validity of some arguments against Maria. The case was concluded without Maria ever admitting her guilt. Although she attempted to get early release through the Lejeune law, this has been denied so far. The case remains controversial, and opinions on Maria's guilt are divided, reflecting the complex Belgian legal system and the challenges of conducting a trial without direct material evidence. In the shadow of this tragedy, we are reminded of the value of community, the power of resilience, and the importance of seeking the truth, however painful it may be. The story of Els Van Doren and the parachute murder remains a somber reminder of the complexity of human relationships and the unpredictable paths of fate. As we close this chapter, we invite you to become part of our community. By liking and subscribing, you support us in our mission to share more stories that shed light on the dark corners of our world, hoping that together we can learn, grow, and prepare for the challenges life throws our way. So, if this story has touched you, made you think, or if you simply want to discover more stories that broaden your view of the world, don't forget to like and subscribe. Together, we can make a difference, one story at a time. See you next time.